Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning to each of you. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome. I am the Reverend Dr. Melva L. Sampson, your digital griot. I curate this digital Hush Harper Pink Robe Chronicles. I trust Black women specifically and the folk largely. Good morning. Welcome, welcome. Please share. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Come on, come on, come on. Good morning to each of you. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, friends. Come on in the room. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hello, Chayla and Antoinette and Natasha. Good morning, Angie Shannon. Good morning, good morning. Please click like and share. Please, good morning to my friends on Facebook and on YouTube. Good morning, Carla Jones Brown. Hey, Digi Deacon Natasha, and to my niece Grace. Good morning, good morning. Thank you for dropping by. Look at Whitney Basden Bond up early. Good morning, Whit. Good morning, Sister Roz. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Rihanna. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, E.I. Renee. Good morning. 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 It is so good to read your names and to see you here, Ashe. Good morning. I have to say this one, Dr. LaRonda Welch Little. Good morning, sis. Good morning, Sister Doctor. Shout out to the newly minted. Shout out to the newly minted. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, Reverend Tiffany. Excuse me for eating, you all. Woke up right at time and need to put a little something on my stomach. Good morning. So, good morning. Hi, Candace Turner. Good to see you here. Good morning. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh, Lisa Rainey is on here. Shut the front and the back door. Oh, Lisa. Wait a minute. Let me go back through these comments. Y'all are kidding me. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Are y'all frozen? Or is the lag just really that long? Let me stay on Restream. Hello, Dr. Yolanda. Good morning. Whitney, I must be looking at a different screen. I don't see Olisa, but Olisa, if you are on here, good freaking morning to you. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's not frozen on FB. Okay, good morning. Good morning, you all. Good morning. Good morning. I'm so glad to read your names, to see you both on YouTube and here on Facebook. I am just, oh, Lisa girl. Y'all just give me a minute. I am too full seeing your name. My God today. My God today. But good, it is good to see your name on this screen, oh Lisa. My God today. What a beautiful feeling. Miss seeing you, miss your presence. Let's catch up. Let's catch up. So I want to enter in this morning because all of us, well, let me back out and start this way. I am reading 3 books right now. One of them I shared with you a couple weeks ago, Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life. The other is The Body Keeps the Score. And the third is My Grandmother's Hands. For 2 years now, the Spirit has been wanting me to get where I just am now. And that's okay, because oftentimes it takes us a moment, as we'll read shortly, to get where we need to be. It doesn't matter how long it takes you to get where you need to be. It simply requires that we get there, Ashe. There have been a series of individual and collective events that I have sensed and felt viscerally in my body. There have also been events that I've uncovered, right? Recognizing their presence with the help of a therapist and with the help of ancestral wisdom, with the help of Dr. Velma Love and others, that recognizing, giving attention to my body. And what is interesting enough is I am someone who believes she is embodied, whose academic work is around embodiment, Ashe. And yeah. And so the events, you are not frozen on Facebook, right? Because it's just saying the same screen. And so I'm gonna keep moving. Just somebody put up here, let me know that you are not frozen on Facebook. Good morning, Dana. You are not frozen on Facebook. Somebody just say we're not frozen on Facebook on YouTube for me, please. No. Okay, thank you, Renee. I may have to switch production platforms. At any rate, and so whether it was on last week or the week before, where we learned of the horrific domestic terroristic happenings in Buffalo and or in Texas, our bodies absolutely have been keeping score. Our bodies have been holding this trauma. And I realized as I was searching for some kind of text, some kind of scripture, some kind of something to provide comfort, that I was having my own trauma response to scripture. I watched and went to the gathering. Shout out to our sisters, our co-family, the Gathering Church in Dallas, Texas, with pastors Camila Hall Sharp and Irie Session. And in both of their sermons, they were talking about the body. Reverend Hall Sharp was asking, "What is your body feeling?" And there is this one text, that I kept hearing, and I was like, "Now I'm not preaching that." Every time it comes up for me, I have my body responds. And I remember in earlier, more evangelical, fundamentalist, biblical literalist days, I used to recite this text to give me encouragement, to help me withstand what suffering I believed that I was enduring. And so I found it odd that as I was trying to process these events that were happening, that the scripture that kept coming up was, "I've been young and now I'm old, yet I've never seen the righteous forsaken, nor is seed begging for bread." And my response was, it's absolutely not true. I have been young and now I am old, and I absolutely have seen the righteous forsaken, and I absolutely have seen its seed begging for bread. Absolutely. What is being talked about in this text? But I could not get to the text, right? Maybe by next week. I could not get to the text because my body would just lock up like, what? What is really happening? Yes, Renee. Buffalo is my home. No family or friends hurt, but I have family who knows someone who died. Please keep them in prayer. That's the only grocery store in the community. Ashe, absolutely, absolutely. And so as I have been healing myself, and trying to, find a text and said, I need to come and give the people some comfort and give them this good old traditional sermon. This morning, I just, once again got free. It's such a process, and said, there are folks who are doing that. I want you all to go back and watch the gathering from last night. Two beautifully powerful sermons delivered for those of you who need that. I don't have that part to give. What I do have are these words that have come to me through Resma Menicum, who is a social worker and a therapist, in this beautiful text called My Grandmother's Hands, Racialized Trauma and the Pathway to Mending Our Hearts and Bodies. I want to then spend my time in this community this morning. Right, Angie. I got a sermon called Hell No. I want to spend this time sharing in an equally important way about possibly what could be happening in our bodies, and for us to pay attention to our bodies. Ashe. And if you have the opportunity and the resources, I want you to get this book. Period. Get this book and the other two that I mentioned and begin your journey. Now, there's a whole lot of good stuff that I'm moving past because I don't have time to read it all. But there's a section about acknowledging our ancestors. And even if you've read this before and you know this book back and front, it's okay for you to still listen, because there is something about hearing and rehearing. And you still have enough trauma in your body wherein it needs to be released, and you need to be reminded of the healing work that needs to happen. Ashe. So I'm going to begin here with your body and blood. And there are 4 epigraphs. Epigraphs are these quotes citations that people sometimes put at the beginning of their chapters. The first is by Toni Morrison. And I want you to, wherever you are right now, except for those of you who may be driving and or at work, I want you to try to position yourselves in a space where you can be as still as possible, where you can feel your body. So if you have the ability, if you're lying still in the bed, some of you are still in the bed, I say to rest. I want you to kind of straighten up your legs if you have that ability and just sort of position yourself in stillness where you can sort of sense your body. If you're sitting, I want you to put your feet flat on the ground, Ashe, that you might be able to feel, and sense what's happening in your body, Ashe, okay? Here's the first epigraph from Toni Morrison. No one ever talks about the moment you found that you were white or the moment you found out you were black. That's a profound revelation. The minute you find that out, something happens. You have to renegotiate everything. The next by James Baldwin. History is not the past. It is the present. We carry our history with us. We are our history. The next by Elizabeth A. Benke. There is a deep wisdom within our very flesh. If we can only come to our senses and feel it, this should resonate. We've read Divining the Self. We've read This Here Flesh. This should resonate. The last by Colin Kaepernick. People don't realize what's really going on in this country. There are a lot of things that are going on that are unjust. People aren't being held accountable. This country stands for freedom, liberty, and justice for all. And it's not happening for all right now. Listen for some words I believed influenced by the Most High. When I was a boy, I used to watch television with my grandmother, and I would sit in the middle of the sofa, and she would stretch out over 2 seats, resting her legs in my lap. She often felt pain in her hands, and she'd ask me to rub them in mine. And when I did, her fingers would relax and she'd smile. Sometimes she'd start to hum melodically, and her voice would make a vibration that reminded me of a cat's purr. She wasn't a large woman, but her hands were surprisingly stout, with broad fingers and thick pads below each thumb. One day I asked her, "Grandma, why are your hands like that?" "They ain't the same as mine." My grandmother turned from the television and looked at me. "Boy," she said slowly, "that's from picking cotton. They've been that way since long before I was your age. I started working in the field sharecropping when I was 4. I didn't understand. I'd helped plant things in the garden a few times, but my own hands were bony and my fingers were narrow." I held up my hand next to hers and stared at the difference. She said. "The cotton plant has pointed burrs in it, and when you reach your hand in it, the burrs rip it up. And when I first started picking, my hands were all torn and bloody. And when I got older, they got thicker and thicker until I could reach in and pull out the cotton without them bleeding. My grandmother died last year. Sometimes I can still feel her warm, thick hands in mine." For the past 3 decades, we earnestly tried to address white body supremacy in America with reason, principles, and ideas, using dialogue, forums, discussion, education, and mental training. But the widespread destruction of black bodies continues, and some of the ugliest destruction originates with our police. Why is there such a chasm between our well-intentioned attempts to heal and the ever-growing number of dark-skinned bodies who are killed or injured, sometimes by police officers? It's not that we've been lazy or insincere, but we focused our efforts in the wrong direction. We've tried to teach our brains to think better about race. But white body supremacy doesn't live in our thinking brains. It lives and breathes in our bodies. Our bodies have a form of knowledge that is different from our cognitive brains. This knowledge is typically experienced as a felt sense of constriction or expansion, pain or ease, energy or numbness. Often, this knowledge is stored in our bodies as wordless stories about what is safe and what is dangerous. I want to read that sentence again. Often, this knowledge is stored in our bodies as wordless stories about what is safe and about what is dangerous. The body is where we fear, hope, and react, where we constrict and release, and where we reflexively fight. This is helping me already. Flee or freeze. If we are to upend the status quo of white body supremacy, we must begin with our bodies. Why is this so important? It is important because much of the Christian tradition that has been handed to us, my goodness, that we have been socialized to believe, while Christianity, the practice of Christianity, is an embodied act because it hinges on incarnation. It hinges on God becoming one of us, embodying one of us, right? God with us, right? So that we are to feel our salvific moment is to reconnect with the body. But as a result of varying philosophical trends mixed with Christianity, this type of religious syncretism and cultural syncretism, the body over time, beginning with the Romans, the Greeks, so forth and so on, over time was something that we were to despise. Come on, I know I'm talking. That we are to despise. And so we are to bring this flesh in certain understandings of Christian practice, those disciplinary practices that many have experienced in more charismatic denominations and strains of holiness and Pentecostalism and some trends of Baptists, where we are to bring this flesh under subjection that it might be holy, because the flesh is problematic and the spirit is whole. And so what that has done is caused this kind of schism for most of us, wherein unknowingly we despise our bodies, because our bodies, according to our cognitive thinking, won't do spiritually what we command or demand that it does. Hence us creating these sort of trauma responses. I'm going to keep on going. I just needed to stop there, because while this tradition, this third way that Jesus provides for us is embodied, not somehow, we have been socialized to approach it cognitively. I just listen. Are we on the same page? Are you here with me? Is this right? Is this right? Is this right? Okay, thank you, Mia. Mia said you talking good. Ashe. So, according to Mencken, our bodies have a form of knowledge. I talked about this in my dissertation. And is it Foucault who tells us that our bodies hold subjugated knowledges, these hidden knowledges that are often overlooked. Our bodies have a form of knowledge. Mama Itiari. Our bodies have a form of knowledge, according to Resma, that is different from our cognitive brains. My God. This knowledge is typically experienced as a felt sense of constriction or expansion, pain or ease, energy or numbness. Often, this knowledge, this form of knowledge, is stored in our bodies. I read this again, but I read this before. I'm reading it again. Is stored in our bodies as wordless stories. Think about what a wordless story is, my God, about what is safe and what is dangerous. The body is where we fear, where we hope, and where we react. Okay. New advances in psychobiology reveal that our deepest emotions, love, fear, anger, dread, grief, sorrow, disgust, and hope involve the activation of our bodily structures. These structures, a complex system of nerves, connect the brainstem, the pharynx, the heart, lungs, stomach, gut, and spine. Neuroscientists call this system the wandering nerve or our vagus nerve. Or a more apt name may be our soul nerve. My goodness, y'all. Poo, poo, poo. The soul nerve is connected directly to a part of our brain that doesn't use cognition or reasoning as its primary tool for navigating the world. Oh, are y'all getting this? Woo! Are y'all getting this? Are y'all? I gotta pause for a moment just to make sure. Our soul nerve also helps mediate between our bodies activating energy and resting energy. This part of our brain is similar to the brains of lizards, birds, and lower mammals. Our lizard brain only understands survival and protection. At any given moment, it can issue one of a handful of survival commands: rest, fight, flee, or freeze. These are the only commands it knows and the only choices it is able to make. Did y'all hear that? White body supremacy. Hey. White body supremacy. Come on, Candace Turner. And how many of us have back and stomach concerns? Listen, white body supremacy is always functioning in our bodies. White body supremacy is always functioning in our bodies. It operates in our thinking brains, in our assumptions, expectations, and mental shortcuts. It operates in our muscles and nervous system, where it routinely creates constriction. But it operates most powerfully in our lizard brains. Our lizard brain cannot think. It is reflexively protective and it is strong. It loves whatever it feels will keep us safe, and it fears and hates whatever it feels will do us harm. All our sensory input has to pass through the reptilian part of our brain before it even reaches the cortex where we think and reason. Our lizard brain scans all of this input and responds in a fraction of a second by either letting something enter into the cortex or rejecting it and inciting a flight, flee, or freeze response. This mechanism allows our lizard brain to override our thinking brain whenever it senses real or imagined danger. It blocks any information from reaching our thinking brain until after it has sent a message to fight, flee, or freeze. This is what I'm reading from. Many of us picture our thinking brain as a tiny CEO in our head who makes important executive decisions. But this metaphor is misguided. Our cortex doesn't get the opportunity to have a thought about any piece of sensory input unless our lizard brain lets it through. And in making its decision, our reptilian brain always asks the same question: is it dangerous or is it safe? Remember that dangerous can mean a threat to more than just the well-being of our body. It can mean a threat to what we do, say, think, care about, believe in, or yearn for, okay? Is it dangerous, right? Is not only is it dangerous to my body, but is it dangerous to how I show up in the world? Is it dangerous to how I do my work? My God. Is it dangerous to what I believe are my core values? And when we feel threatened, when we feel that there is impending danger on how we show up, on what we believe, on what we do, it is not just in our body. Ashe? When it comes to safety, our thinking mind is third in line after our body and our lizard brain. That's why when we put a hand on a hot frying pan, the hand jerks away instantly, while our thinking brain goes, what the hell just happened? Ow, that shit is hot. It's also why you might have the impulse to throw the pan across the kitchen, even though doing so won't help you. The body is where we live. It's where we fear, hope, and react. It's where we constrict and relax. Melva, why are you reading this on Peak Rope Chronicles? Because we are all dealing with trauma in our bodies. Period. When something happens to the body that is too much, too fast, or too soon, it overwhelms the body and can create trauma. Contrary to what many people believe, trauma is not primarily an emotional response. Trauma always happens in the body. It is a spontaneous protective mechanism used by the body to stop or thwart further or future potential damage. Trauma is not a flaw or a weakness. It is a highly effective tool of safety and survival. Trauma is also not an event. Trauma is the body's protective response to an event. Trauma is not an event, but trauma is the body's protective response to an event or to a series of events that it perceives as potentially dangerous. This perception may be accurate, inaccurate, or entirely imaginary. In the aftermath of highly stressful or traumatic situations, our soul nerve and lizard brain may embed a reflexive trauma response in our bodies. This happens at lightning speed. Yeah. An embedded trauma response then can manifest as flight, flee, or freeze, or as some combination of constriction, pain, fear, dread, anxiety, unpleasant and or sometimes pleasant thoughts, reactive behaviors, or other sensations and experiences. This trauma then gets stuck in the body and stays stuck there until it is addressed. Friends, put a pin right there. A great compliment to this sentence, to this section, is Louise Hayes, You Can Heal Your Life, who talks about that every dis-ease we are experiencing in the body for her begins with a thought. A thought that is stuck in the body. Now, Resma is saying it is beginning with this trauma. Y'all. Woo. Where are y'all? Come on, let me see where you are. Put some comments on here. Let me see where you are. What's happening? What's happening in the chat? Where are we? What's happening in your body? I see you, Leah. I'm in the right place at the right time. Hey, my VUU sis, Pamela Wood. Yeah. Let the lizard brain, yes, because it's already in control. Yes, Angie, swimming helps you manage trauma. Yeah. Okay. And what happens, though, when trauma gets stuck in the body? The dis-ease becomes chronic disease. That's what happens. We can have a trauma response to anything we perceive as a threat, not only to our physical safety, but to what we do, say, think, care about, believe in, or yearn for. This is why people get murdered for disrespecting other folks' relatives or their favorite sports teams. It's also why people get murdered when other folks imagine a relative or favorite team was disrespected. From the body's viewpoint, safety and danger are neither situational nor based on cognitive feelings. It's not rational. Rather, they are physical, visceral sensations. The body either has a sense of safety or it doesn't. If it doesn't, it will do almost anything to establish or recover that sense of safety. Y'all. Trauma responses are unique to each person. Each such response is influenced by a person's particular physical, mental, emotional, and social makeup, and of course, by the precipitating experiences themselves. However, trauma is never a personal failing, and it is never something a person can choose. It is always something that happens to someone. A traumatic response usually sets in quickly, too quickly to involve the rational brain. Indeed, a traumatic response temporarily overrides the rational brain. It's like when a computer senses a virus and responds by shutting down some or all of its functions. This is also why, when mending trauma, we need to proceed slowly so that we can uncover the body's functions without triggering yet another trauma response. As mentioned earlier, trauma is also a wordless story our body tells itself about what is safe and what is a threat. Our rational brain can't stop it from occurring, and it can't talk our body out of it. Trauma can cause us to react to present events in ways that seem wildly inappropriately, overly charged, or otherwise out of proportion. Let me just stop and give a little story here about a trauma response that I had some years ago. Some years ago, I was a doctoral student, and I worked. I had a summer position archiving as in one of the archival locations, digitizing the MLK papers. I was one, probably in terms of students, I was the oldest student there. Most of the students were undergraduate students from the AUC and other colleges and universities in the Atlanta area. They brought in some veterans there that they had trained to help, that they trained first, and these veterans were to show us how to digitize these documents. One day, there were a series of events that happened, but one particular moment that this trauma response, a supervisor was a white male, Southern white male veteran. And I didn't like it. He triggered me every time he talked to any of the younger students. I just didn't like the way he talked to them. It got under my skin. It was a trauma response. So one day he asked me to not do something, or some, like, don't do something like the way that I was doing it. I did hear him, and but I did not turn around and say, "Oh, okay, you don't want me." I heard him and ceased doing it. I started doing it the way that he was saying, and he said, do you hear me talking to you?" And when my body just responded, it tensed up. I remember, I can even feel it now, but everything in me just tensed up. My head started moving sort of from side to side, trying to just, sense what was happening. And he said, if you hear me talking to you, then I need you to respond, because that's what normal people do. Normal people respond when their direct reports are talking to them. Well, friends, I just simply logged out of my computer and filled out my timesheet, got up from my desk, went to the other person and said, "Thank you for this opportunity. I quit." The person was like, "What? You quit?" I was like, "I quit. I quit." And the person was still talking, behind me, like he couldn't understand. And I just went in. Back then, I would have said I lost it. Like, I went in. I went all the way in, like all the way down through the years in. Like, I went in for every person, every white person who ever, even like I went in on daddy issues. What are you talking about? Listen to you while I'm talking. I went in and I quit. Now, I really needed that job. I needed that money. It was some good money. It really wasn't, there could have been another way if I would have had this language, if I would have understood what was happening at the time, what was going on in my body. There may have been a way for me to address it differently, right? But in that moment, that was my response. And I could not I could not undo it. And I remember sharing with someone afterwards who talked to me about victimhood and victimization and how, she was inviting me to go back through my body and sort of to release it because so that I don't live in that space of victimhood. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, what? No, this happened. Like, I ain't going back in nothing. This happened. And so what there then became a pattern that again I was unaware of, that every time I would be triggered in that way, that's the response, or a response like it would come forward. So when I read this section, it just took me back to that moment, that it wasn't rational, right? And that it was a response that was rekindling this old pain or this discomfort, and it's what led to my over the top reaction. And anytime you are experiencing an over the top reaction, you're seeing what you believe is an over top reaction, then it is suggested that it is rightfully to think that this is someone is having a trauma response, right? That it cannot just be about this, right? It is a trauma response. So such overreactions are the body's attempt to complete a protective action that got thwarted or overwritten during a traumatic situation. The body wanted to fight or flee, but wasn't able to do either, so it got stuck in freeze mode. In many cases, it then develops strategies around this stuckness, including extreme reactions, compulsions, strange likes and dislikes, seemingly irrational fears, and unusual avoidance strategies. Over time, these can become embedded in the body as standard ways of surviving and protecting itself. Y'all, listen, talking to me. Do y'all hear what I'm saying? Hi, Karen Horry. Do y'all hear what I'm saying? Talking to me. I'm not the only one with this pattern, right? Natasha says, I'm also remembering the church language of I'm getting ready to get there. I ain't got there yet. I'm going. Yep, I'm going. So that, but I'll just go there now, Natasha. Yeah, it's so with this lets us know these trauma-informed responses, or these interruptions of this stuckness, is not a generational curse that we are engaging. It's generational trauma. It's generational trauma that is stuck in our bodies. Ashe. These generational curses. Next week we'll talk about Walter Wink's engaging the powers, and for us to understand power. Usually, when we talk about power, we are thinking about these angelic forces, or these demons flipping and flopping around. But Walter Wink says, but the institution power is institution structures and systems. The spirit of an institution, not the spirit that we intuit and then project to say, oh, that's a bad spirit. He suggests, but that an institution physically has a spirit. The building of an institution has a spirit that is problematic, right? That is evil, and understands Satan not as this being, but as an institution. That's another read. And so, yeah, that these generational instances are generational trauma responses, because according to Menachem, trauma has been passed down in our bodies from generation to generation. White body supremacy has been passed down to white bodies. He will suggest, beginning with Europeans fighting Europeans, Europeans passing down this trauma then to black bodies and to First Nation bodies. This is in our bodies. So again, my time is winding. Let me just, over time, these can become embedded in the body. Hey, therapist Margaret. Yes, embedded in the body as standard ways of surviving and protecting itself. That when these strategies are repeated and passed on over generations, they can become the standard response in family, communities, and cultures. So here it is. Strategies for stuckness, like elevating eliteness as a sign of one's success. Mama Itihari Torre. The elder has spoken, y'all. The elder has spoken. Woo-wee! Father has spoken stuck in your body. That's a trauma response. Do you hear what she's saying? It is a trauma response to elevate eliteness as a sign of one's success. Ain't that a word, babe? Oh, Mama Etiari. Oh, Mama Etiari. Give us more. Give us more, please. Please, give us others. My. Yes, Yvonne, and this, how Black women communities are shaped. Come on, give us more of that. Here, let me get to this. One common and often overlooked trauma response, listen to this, is what I call, I gotta eat a piece of banana, is what I call trauma ghosting. It's what Minicum calls, sorry y'all, trauma ghosting. This is the body's recurrent or pervasive sense that danger is just around the corner or something terrible is going to happen at any moment. These responses tend to make little cognitive sense, and the person's own cognitive brain is unaware of them. But for the body, they make perfect sense. It is protecting itself from repeating the experience that caused or preceded the trauma. Let me go back and read it again. One common and often overlooked trauma response is what I call trauma ghosting. This is the body's recurrent or pervasive sense that danger is just around the corner or something terrible is going to happen at any moment. These responses tend to make little cognitive sense, and the person's own cognitive brain is often unaware of them. But for the body, they make perfect sense. It is protecting itself from repeating the experience that caused or preceded the trauma. You know what this is? Waiting for the other shoe to drop. That's how I interpret that. If you live your life waiting for the other shoe to drop, Queen Kosie's in the building. If you live your life waiting for the other shoe to drop, that's a trauma response. If you live your life, I'm talking to me, if you live your life wondering or believing something is just around the corner that's bad is going to happen, that's a trauma response. Get it. I'm gonna read it for you one more time. Hey, Coach Shayla. Listen, all the healers are here. I got Coach Shayla in here. I got Queen Kosi in here. I got Therapist Margaret in here. Mama Itihari is in here. Listen, the healers are here. The healers are here. I'm going to read it one more time. One common and often overlooked trauma response is what I call trauma ghosting. This is the body's recurrent or pervasive sense that danger is just around the corner or something terrible is going to happen at any moment. Now, let me pause it. I have these responses, and they are connected to white body supremacy. I have these responses when I'm before what happened in Buffalo. Sending our children to school, being in Target and them saying, okay, we're going to go over by here. No, we all got to stay together. Or expecting something because it's happening so rapidly. So let me broaden this to a collective. It's that stuckness, this sense that everything is just going too right. And then the guilt of, I think the guilt is also maybe a trauma response, the guilt of surviving. Listen. In other cases, people do the exact opposite. They reenact or precipitate situations similar to the ones that caused their trauma. This may seem crazy or neurotic to the cognitive mind, but there is bodily wisdom behind it. By recreating such a situation, the person also creates an opportunity to complete whatever action got thwarted or overwritten. This might help the person mend the trauma, create more room for growth in his or her body, and settle his or her nervous system. However, the attempt to reenact the event often simply repeats, reinflicts, and deepens the trauma. When this happens repeatedly over time, the trauma response can look like part of the person's personality. As years and decades pass, reflexive traumatic responses can lose context. A person may forget that something happened to him or her, and then internalize the trauma responses. These responses are typically viewed by others and often by the person as a personality defect. My God, when this same strategy gets internalized and passed down over generations within a particular group, it can start to look like culture. Mama ETR, did you hear that? Did you hear that? I want to read it again. The attempt to reenact the event often simply repeats, reinflicts, and deepens the trauma. When this happens repeatedly over time, the trauma response, our response to trauma, or let's use Mama E.T. Hari's example, our using elitism as an example of our success. Okay, hold on. Let me just, you know what that looks like? Highlighting the difference between a doctor of ministry and a PhD degree, not because they are different degrees that have different purposes, but different because one believes that one is higher and a more elite form of success than a doctor of ministry degree. And so hence often saying that folk who have doctor of ministry degrees need to sort of bow down and give deference to those who have PhD degrees. That is a trauma-informed response because of all of the hell and trauma that one experienced in these systems, these PhD granting institutions that are flanked by white body supremacy. That sort of need, or that sort of trauma response of elitism and turning one's nose up or down at those who also stand shoulder to shoulder, who have earned doctor of ministry degrees that are not less than, simply different. I just want to help somebody today. That kind of stuff. It is a trauma response that I have to be careful of. For instance, with certain types of theology that I do not get down with anymore, but that I feel what's in my body, but have to be sure not to disregard their humanity because they are talking about something that has induced trauma in me. Listen. So he's saying that as years and decades pass, reflexive traumatic responses can lose context. Meaning this stuff happened so long ago, you don't even remember what happened. But the responses are still there, remember, because they're stuck in the body. And these responses then are typically viewed by others like, oh, they just got a bad personality. But when this same strategy gets internalized and passed down over generations within a particular group, it can start to look like culture. It can start to look like, that's Black culture. That's what we do. And he's saying that's not culture. That's trauma. Yo, yo, yo. Oh, this is, oh my goodness. Yee! Y'all, okay, I'm not gonna get done with all of this, but let me just skip around. Many African Americans, I'm gonna skip around. Many African Americans know trauma intimately from their own nervous system, from the experiences of people they love, and most often from both. But African Americans are not alone in this. A different but equally real form of racialized trauma lives in the bodies of white Americans. And a third, often deeply toxic type of racialized trauma lives and breathes in the bodies of many of America's law enforcement officers. All three types of trauma are routinely passed on from person to person and from generation to generation. This intergenerational transmission, which more aptly and less clinically I call a soul wound, occurs in multiple ways. So instead of using generational curses, I like what Resma is offering us here, which is soul wound. Right. That you are healing soul wounds. You are not breaking generational curses. You are healing soul wounds. Right. These soul wounds that have been passed down from generation to generation and often through our DNA, this intergenerational. And he says, and these soul wounds occur in multiple ways. And I'm going to end probably here. Here are the multiple ways: through families in which one family member abuses or mistreats another, through unsafe or abusive systems, structures, institutions, and or cultural norms. There's where that power is that I was talking about there. Through our genes, recent work in human genetics suggests that trauma is passed on in our DNA expression through the biochemistry of the human egg, sperm, and womb. This means that no matter what we look like, if we were born and raised in America, white body supremacy and our adaptations to it are in our blood. Our very bodies house the unhealed dissonance and trauma of our ancestors. This is why white body supremacy continues to persist in America and why so many African Americans continue to die from it. We will not change this situation through training, traditional education, or other appeals to the cognitive brain. We need to begin with the body and its relation to trauma. In Between the World and Me, Ta-Nehisi Coates exposed the long-standing and ongoing destruction of the black body in America. That destruction will continue until Americans of all cultures and colors learn to acknowledge the inherited trauma of white body supremacy embedded in all of our bodies. We need to metabolize this trauma, work through it with our bodies, not just our thinking brains, and grow up out of it. Only in this way will we at last mend our bodies, our families, and the collective body of our nation. The process differs slightly for black folks, white folks, and America's police, but all of us need to heal, and with right guidance, all of us can. In addition, I'm skipping around. In addition, trauma and healing aren't just private experiences. Sometimes trauma is a collective experience, in which case our approaches for mending must be collective and communal as well. People in therapy can have insights galore, but may stay stuck in habitual pain, harmful trauma patterns, and automatic reactions to real or perceived threats. Sheesh, where is my pen? I need to come back there and do some work. This is because trauma is embedded in their bodies, not their cognitive brains. That trauma then becomes the unconscious lens through which they will view all of their current experiences. Often this trauma blocks attempts to heal it. Whenever the body senses the opportunity and the challenge to mend, it responds by fighting, fleeing, or freezing. In therapy, this might involve a client getting angry, going numb and silent, or saying, "I don't want to talk about that." We need to understand our body's process of connection and settling. We need to slow ourselves down and learn to lean into uncertainty rather than away from it. We need to ground ourselves, touch the pain or discomfort inside our trauma, and explore it gently. This requires building a tolerance of bodily and emotional discomfort and learning to stay present with rather than trying to flee that discomfort. I'm going to the end of this chapter now to leave you with some body-centered practices. the body-centered practices at the end of this chapter. Take a moment to ground yourself in your own body. Notice the outline of your skin and the slight pressure of the air around it. Experience the firmer pressure of the chair, the bed, or couch beneath you, or the ground or floor beneath your feet. Can you sense hope in your body? Where does your body experience that hope? Is it a release or an expansion? A tightening born of eagerness or anticipation? What specific hopes accompany these sensations? The chance to heal, to be free of the burden of racialized trauma, to live a bigger, deeper life. Do you experience any fear in your body? If so, where? That's in my throat chakra. How does it manifest? As tightness, as a painful radiance, as a dead hard spot? What worries accompany the fear? Are you afraid your life will be different in ways you can't predict? Are you afraid of facing clean pain? Are you worried you will choose dirty pain instead? Do you feel the raw, wordless fear and perhaps excitement that heralds change? What pictures appear in your mind as you experience that fear? If your body feels both hopeful and afraid, congratulations. You're just where you need to be for what comes next. I would encourage you to replay this until you get the book so that you can move through this exercise. We're going to probably be in this book a couple weeks. But there's one final note at the end of each chapter. You'll find a list of rememberings which highlight the key insights. So here are the key insights for those of you who came late. They are here. Let me go do one thing before I read. And I can only do around 15 minutes today in the clearing. And when you come to the clearing, for those of you, well, we'll see if it lets me do it. Now, my computer has been doing the most since last week. I mean, I tell you. Okay, here we go. Oh, wow. Okay. Hold on one second, friends. Let me put this here before I do this recap. Before I do this recap. Okay, I've just put the Zoom meeting in, the Zoom info in to I'm looking for, okay, let me just put it into YouTube for those who are in here on YouTube. Hold on one second. Greetings to Dr. Elise. Hey. One second, friends. I want to make sure. Well, why can't I don't want to learn more. I want to, Natasha, if you're still on, will you help me? For some reason, I don't see the box where I can comment. It just has top chat. I want to see. And will you get it to the people? Or will someone go over to the Pink Road Chronicles page and share the Zoom information? Please, please, please. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm not able to see it for some reason. Okay, you did it already. Thank you. All right, let's do this recap and then head on over. Rememberings. So here are the rememberings. Here are the takeaways from this chapter, from this book, from Resma Menken. 1. White body supremacy doesn't live just in our thinking brains. It lives and breathes in our bodies. As a result, we will never outgrow white body supremacy just through discussion, training, or anything else that's mostly cognitive. Instead, we need to look to the body and to the embodied experience of trauma. Our deepest emotions involve the activation of a single bodily structure, our soul nerve or our vagus nerve. This nerve is connected to our lizard brain, which is concerned solely with survival and protection. Our lizard brain only has 4 basic commands: rest, flight, flee, or freeze. In the aftermath of a highly stressful event, our lizard brain may embed a reflexive trauma response, a wordless story of danger in our body. This trauma can cause us to react to present events in ways that seem out of proportion or wildly inappropriate to what's actually going on. Trauma is routinely passed on from person to person and generation to generation through genetics, through culture, family structures, and the biochemistry of the egg, sperm, and womb. Trauma is literally in our blood. Most African Americans know trauma intimately, but different kinds of racialized trauma also live and breathe in the bodies of most white Americans, as well as most law enforcement professionals. All of us need to metabolize the trauma, work through it, and grow up out of it with our bodies, not just our thinking brains. Only in this way will we heal, at least both individually and collectively. The healing and the purpose of this book is about your body. Whether you are a Black American, a white American, a police officer, this book offers you profound opportunities for growth and for healing. Trauma is not destiny. It can be healed. That's it. My goodness. Trauma circle. Trauma is not destiny. It can be healed. You are not that's the issue of generational curses, that kind of language. Trauma is not destiny. It can be healed. Where are my Reiki and energy workers? My goodness. Trauma is not destiny. It can be healed. Talk therapy can help with this process, but the body is the central focus for healing trauma. Trauma is all about speed and reflexivity. This is why people need to work through trauma slowly over time, and why they need to understand their own body's processes of connecting and settling. Sometimes trauma is a collective experience, in which case the healing must be collective and communal as well. Trauma can be the body's response to anything unfamiliar or anything it doesn't understand. Trauma responses are unpredictable. 2 bodies may respond very differently to the same stressful or painful event. Ashe. Healing involves discomfort, but so does refusing to heal. And over time, refusing to heal is always more painful. There are 2 kinds of pain. Clean pain is pain that mends and can build your capacity for growth. It's the pain you feel when you know what to say or do, when you really don't want to say or do it, and when you do it anyway, responding from the best parts of yourself. Dirty pain is the pain of avoidance, blame, or denial, when you respond from your most wounded parts. Ashe. Friends, listen, please get this book. Natasha has placed the link in the chat. My grandmother's hands. This is the Pink Road Chronicles offering to all that we are experiencing. I'm appreciative of the gathering of Womanish Church, and want to for those of you who need sort of a traditional sermon, I invite you to journey with the gathering on Saturdays, where you can journey and be with them in community live and go back to listen to those sermons. And it's here as we are centering these texts. And believe it or not, this is a sermon, but I understand as folks are growing through their trauma, what they may need. And so I am just wowed by what I've heard. And so I'm inviting you all now to come on over to the clearing, where we'll stay for a few minutes so that I can actually hear some of your responses, and we can talk a little bit about it in community. While I have you, I would be remiss to share with you, not to share with you, as you've been seeing on social media, for those of you who are around, even if you're not around and you just want to come to Winston-Salem, right? But from Richmond, DMV, Richmond, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and all parts Northwest and South. Juneteenth weekend, June 17th and 18th, Derek and I, Pink Robe Chronicles, powered this One Love Festival. It is a centering and celebration of African diaspora culture through arts, through music, through innovation, empowerment, and entrepreneurship. We have in the daytime free artistic soul conversations that are open to the public, where we are engaging the community. We have folk like Brother Maoli Davis, who is coming here, who represents not just Davis Bozeman Law Firm, but Black Man Lab, who will be talking through his work. We Need You. We have his most capable partner, soon to be Dr. Jana Johnson Davis, who is the board chair of the City of Decatur Schools Board of Education. We have Candace Bimbo, who will be back here in her hometown talking through Black women and red lip theology. We have IP attorney Maurice Foxworth, Reverend Dr. John Mendez, myself. We have Elias Stewart, and I'm sorry, who? And Daryl Shaw. And those are parts of our community conversations. And then as we lift up our music and our arts and our entertainments, which we know have been effective in knitting us back together with our Africanisms, with our history and our culture. On Friday night, we are pleased to have regional talent, Soul Tree and Untitled, who I hear are phenomenal in this Greensboro, Winston-Salem area in the Triad, along with we got the jazz of A Tribe Called Quest featuring Malcolm Jamal Warner. Yep, that's what I said, Malcolm Jamal Warner and Dashiell Smith. The following Saturday, the main event at 8 p.m. opens with international hip-hop artist Tara Lord from Toronto, Canada. Then our very own Pink Robe Chronicles member, Dr. Chelsey Green and the Green Project, closing out with Masiki Scales and the Common Ground Collective, y'all. This is for us, Ashe. This is for us. This is for us. You can't see, please post it again. Natasha, can you please post the clearing again? Hi, Elder Donna McCraney. Good to see. And Chelsey is here. I love you, Dr. Chelsey. I love you. You know, this is for us. If you may have seen me post, I just need to say this because I know everybody won't come over to the clearing. I need to say this. You know, are you an institution? Are you an institution, or do you only work for or serve institutions? For those of you who have supported, said, "Oh, you should go out, you should go be." This is the communal response. We need your support. We need you to buy tickets. So go to www.onelovefestival.com. You can purchase your tickets. You can see all of the information I've seen there. I really need you, period. That's it. Derek and I need you. This is us. We have some sponsors here. I mean, Red Bull, shout out to Red Bull and to their Deep South Region festivals. Shout out to the Arts Council of Winston-Salem, Forsyth County. Shout out to the City of Winston-Salem. Shout out to Piedmont Business Capital. Shout out to the University of North Carolina Schools of the Arts. Shout out to Dr. Millicent Ford. Shout out to Dr. Itihari Teray. Shout out to Claire and Randall Tuttle. These are people who've already supported. And most of all, we need you, right? Because this is also, and shout out to the Urban League, Winston-Salem Urban League, because we need you all present. We need your seats We need your bums in the seats. We need you. This is for us. We've done this because I was dreaming. I told you all before, and I'll say it again. I always wanted to be on the Tampax Total U Tour. For those of you who are old enough to remember that, and who used to go to all the Black Women's Expos, and even to have the Black women speaking at the Essence Fest. I wanted that. I wrote that in my dream book, and till my spouse said, "Boo, okay, you got to create it." Create what you want. And so there is enough for all of us. We're operating in the theology of sufficiency, Ashe. There is enough for all of us to do. There is already a Juneteenth celebration here that ends at 8 p.m. on Saturday. Our event is a 2-day event, which is Friday and Saturday. And listen, things should be going on all around cities where you are. There's also the Poor People's Campaign marches happening on that Saturday in DC. There is something for all of us when it talks about the freedom of our people and celebrating and centering our culture. And we really need your support. So we look forward to you being here. Thank you so much. And for those of you who are saying, okay, we want to be present, Ashe, or you can't be present, you are always welcome to give. Here, you can PayPal us at Pink Robe Chronicles, or you can Venmo us here at Melva Sampson. We appreciate you so much. So I'm going to go over to the Zoom now. I'm going to end this and be prepared to listen to your thoughts. See y'all next week. God bless.